Welcome, everybody. We're thrilled to be here. Pretty big challenge to talk about anything related to menopause in 20 minutes or less, but we have the A team of people focused in various aspects of this. One of the things that you'll see is evident is it's hard to talk about the business of menopause without talking about the experience of menopause. And I'm not suggesting we're going to lay out our symptoms for you, but we know that many of the women's health businesses are founded by women because we experience or understand or sympathize or empathize with the complexity of this. So menopause is no different than any other complicated experience that women have. So I'm going to start, I'm just going to brief intro. Komel is the Chief Growth Officer at HerMD, which focuses on providing actual medical care. Alisa founded the Swell, which really focuses on building community, and Michelle has a company that offers products, consumer products, for peri and menopausal women. And for Beth, who I met in the elevator, I promised you we'd talk about menopause, perimenopause, so I hope you're still here. So you each chose very different places to enter. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you decided where to land in menopause. So I'm going to ask you first, Michelle.
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you hear? Okay. Well, my partner and I really looked at this as a business opportunity. We had 25 years of building women's lifestyle brands for other companies, whether it was Real Simple Magazine or my partner worked at Target for 20 years. We spend our careers building women's lifestyle brands, and then found ourselves with symptoms of perimenopause and menopause with no product to buy. So like some speakers spoke about earlier, we said, this is a huge opportunity. There is nothing here, and we actually know how to do this. So why don't we give it a try and actually fill the void that we felt with product, with education and community as well within one brand.
So Alisa, I think it's good to be your age. Alisa is a serial entrepreneur who keeps creating businesses that reflect her life stage. So if you were pregnant when she was pregnant, that was great. If you were single when she was single, but you now started a new community, your next very successful venture focused on perimenopause and menopause. Describe that moment when you said, okay, I'm done with parenting as a business and I'm now moving to the next stage of my life and my business.
Yeah, so taking a step back, I've really been building businesses around my own big life inflection points, and have found as I entered those moments in my life, I was experiencing obviously a lot of things that we all do. It started with sort of sex and dating in my 20s, and then onto parenting. So I've gone from sex to babies to menopause. But really what I was up against is things I was experiencing that a lot of people weren't talking about. I think that in all of these subject categories and these big life moments, we all have a lot of different transitions and changes occurring, a lot of questions, and I've always been really interested in the taboo topics that people are all experiencing, but too afraid or ashamed to talk about. And so we really wanted to go into those topics to really address how people could feel more heard and seen, and always tapped really interesting voices in the space to help us navigate and reframe how we were thinking about it. So it was natural for me. My last company was called Babel, if anyone remembers it. And I really found when I became a new mom, so much was lacking for me in the marketplace. A lot of why I built these businesses is I wasn't guessing what was missing in the marketplace, I was experiencing what was missing in the marketplace, and really wanted to build something around those needs. So now that my kids are older, I have 3 boys, teenagers, they need me a lot less. My parents need me a lot more. And I'm going through a lot of new biological changes and different things. I was amazed that there was not a single resource or community that I was aware of that addressed this phase of life in a way that reflected how I feel and how I think we all feel, and really recognize where we are today. When we hit midlife and menopause, we still have 40, 50 more years to go, which is incredible. And we're living our best lives. And I really felt this idea that I had been marketed to, that this was going to be a moment of crisis, irrelevancy, decline, felt very different for me. And in the spirit of how I've started these other businesses, where are those voices? How can we build a bigger movement generationally to really turn this ship and address this marketplace and this demographic in an entirely new, smart, discerning way?
And we have 3 sort of vectors of menopause represented here. We probably could have fill the room with people approaching it from different ways. Komel, you and your sister started a different approach. Her sister is a practicing obstetrician gynecologist, founded HerMD, which has a very unique model in terms of how care is delivered, and it's also unique in the focus on menopause and sexual wellness. So what was the aha? If you go to one of their events, it's like a Who concert. People are trampling to get on the wait list. But talk about the concept behind HerMD and why it is filling a different gap in the marketplace for menopause care.
Yeah, so the inspiration behind HerMD was actually our mother. We nearly lost her when she was 45. She's alive and well to this day, but she faced constant dismissals in the healthcare system. I'm sure if I asked everyone to raise their hand, how many of you have been dismissed by a medical professional, we would see many people raise their hands. And because of that, women face up to an 8.5-year delay in diagnosis. And they're ignored, their symptoms are ignored. And what Somi saw as a board certified practicing OBGYN over 20 years, we say she did 20 years of field research. She heard patients in the room, and she was often the 5th, 6th, 7th doctor that they were coming to because there's not a lot of training in medical school, and so in menopause care and sexual health care. 20% of OBGYNs are actually trained in menopause and sexual health care, and you have to go beyond residency to actually get that training, which is what she did. So she saw this huge gap where women were being dismissed. There wasn't enough time for providers to actually give patients, and so she went on to do extra training and decided she was going to quit and not be a practicing OBGYN anymore, but really focus on menopause and sexual health care and give patients more time as well, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I encourage you, since we have 11 minutes and 20 seconds to finish the whole landscape of menopause, to reach out to any of us individually. Lots of interesting stories. Having always worked in taboo topics, I say my world is menstruation.
Success to me today is, am I happy doing what I'm doing? Am I waking up feeling excited and passionate about what I'm building? Is this something I want to do for the next 20 years? And it feels so great to say yes. I also think as part of success, I think a lot about,
This is what happens. You get a menopausal moment when you're on the
you
menopause
get like a
panel.
It's really important to me. I mean, obviously, so what I was going to say is that I think I really believe in building businesses in a really lean way. I think oftentimes when you start a business, there's a lot of pressure on you to build very quickly, sort of be unicorn status as fast as you can. And I really think success to me is building authentically and slowly. I think it takes a long time to find your product market fit. And I think you have to not over-engineer and hire intelligently and take your time with what you're building. So success to me is not feeling like I have to constantly chase the next round of financing, which, as we all know, is incredibly draining and difficult.
Symptom of menopause.
It might be a symptom of menopause, and even more difficult if you're in menopause. But to build a viable business product that can be cash flow neutral, cash flow positive certainly, and have a sustainable business that you're happy building.
Thank you. So, Michelle, you're building a business, and we can't step away from that. You're venture-backed. But one of the things that you've talked to me about in the past is just the amazing testimonials that you get from women who are your customers. So again, this is a little bit why you can't separate business from menopause. As you're building this business, what are the things you're hearing that say, to Alisa's point, I'm doing the right thing, I'm getting up and I'm going to do it another day. It's going to be hard, it's going to be competitive, but this makes it worth it.
I mean, what I said before, I have 25 years working experience. I went to business school. I built this business. We came at it from such a, Excel spreadsheet way. But the reality of the day-to-day is, we launched these products. We have 13 products on the shelves at Target and Ulta, our own site, and we get women emailing us every day. I must get 20 emails from customers telling us their stories, telling us how thankful they are that we exist. They had nowhere else to go. We're a product company, and many women say, you are my medical resource, because I have no doctor to talk to. I have no friends I can talk to about this. And it has become so much more emotional. because our customers are relying on us at this point. And that is something we learned along the way. I had no idea that this was what it was going to turn into. And that's why, as we think about our product line, we incorporate content and education in also, because it's become so important to be authentic to what this customer needs in the market. So it's been an incredible journey, and I would say really kind of highlights the lack of information that's out there for women. That, again, not that I'm downplaying, we're just a product company, where I like to believe we're not, but the fact that women are coming to us asking so many questions and telling us their stories has really been meaningful.
Thank you. So you had mentioned, Alisa, about being heard, and I want to punt it over to you, Komel. One of the things that's so interesting about the model you're building, and what everybody hears from their customers in menopause, is I had no idea, I had no information, I felt alone, I was dumbstruck, I had no idea, I was exhausted, I had brain fog, dry eyes, itchy skin, you name it, we got into menopause. When you add to that so few physicians are trained, one of the things that's happened with HerMD is people do feel seen and heard. It used to be the old adage, when the doctor had the hand on the door, the patient would say, "Oh, by the way, I'm having a little pain in intimacy." And you'd be like, "Oh, God, now I have to go back in." But that's the opposite of what Somi does. So how does she help people feel heard? Because she's doing it with waiting lists that are 6 months long, trying to see a doctor who's practicing medicine differently.
We have really locked on to exactly what Alisa and Michelle were saying, the community events and education and that feeling of empowerment, and really coming at it first from that angle. When we go into any community or any market, from New York to LA to the Midwest, there are rooms full of women who are just so happy to finally be heard, to finally be seen, to be able to ask the questions, and for it to be normalized, and for there to be no stigma or shame around it. For so long, it was like, I love the Golden Girls, but you were the Golden Girls, in menopause, and that's not the case anymore. It was like a stamped expiration date, and you were seen as old, and so much of medicine is really narrowly focused. I mean, I have children, it's wonderful to have children, but around pregnancy and fertility or contraception, and you're kind of just forgotten post that. And we're going to live 40 to 50% of our lives in some kind of menopausal state. And so we created this business model with longer appointment times of 20 to 60 minutes, because it is so complex. There are so many issues to uncover in menopause and perimenopause, and there are over 34 symptoms. So, to break that all down, you need time. And so that's what we've given back to the patient.
Thank you. So this idea of the business of menopause, it appears finally that the workplace is waking up to the fact that menopausal women, who make up 20% of the workforce and have been surveyed to say a large chunk of them think about leaving, that these are women in their prime, they have a lot of wisdom, they have a lot of experience, and we need to find a way to keep them in the workforce. Because one of the things that's interesting about menopause and all the work that you're doing, it's not just community, it's not just products, it's not just medical care, it's emotional, it's financial. The financial impacts your family. So I'm curious, Alisa, what do you hear in your community? Are people sharing what they're now enjoying from their workplace, or what they wish people did in their workplaces? And there are whole companies obviously focused on workplace wellness, but you're having conversations with people who are out in the world. What are they saying about needing to adapt, or their companies helping them adapt in menopause?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think you've seen some of this more recently in different data and surveys, that some more women are leaving the workplace during menopause because they don't feel supported. And when you think of sort of maternity leaves and all the other ways in which we support learning and development at companies, I think that there's a real education and shift needed to recognize, I think not only to retain leadership, I think it's very clear that you really want leadership in the room, and I think oftentimes that looks intergenerational. There's a lot of things that older women can bring to teams, to companies, that I think oftentimes get overlooked and sort of weeded out. And I think that what we're seeing and hearing is, first of all, I think we are living our best lives. So I think we're just changing the look and the feel of it, and the way, as we talked earlier, the panel, how are you feeling inside? How do you arrive at work? What are you building? And I think that shows. And I think so it's up to us to sort of remain in the workforce and sort of demand opportunities, remind everyone what our values are. And I think businesses really need to come around and support and understand this biological transition, similarly to how they understand, maternity leave and all the other things that people are going through.
I think we're about 25 years behind fertility and egg freezing, really, for menopause, because the conversation has really just taken hold. It's been going on for a long time, but all of a sudden the media and celebrities caught on to it, so now it's a real thing. So again, we're in the business of menopause, but you all have other experiences before this. What were some of the experiences for you, Michelle, that you felt uniquely positioned you to build a business, a menopause business, either, both?
Yeah, I first of all, I'm shocked when I talk to, and no disrespect to younger people building businesses, but when I talk to a 27-year-old who is taking on starting a company, I don't even know how they do it, because I have, not only do we have just years of work experience, my network is huge. If I have a question about anything from supply chain to raising money to, packaging design, I have a million people I could reach out to because I've worked with these people before. So I value so much the experience that I bring to this, and even just the emotional piece, the not freaking out when the PO gets canceled or your packaging comes in wrong or who knows what is going on. But I'm not losing my mind because I've probably seen it before in some other capacity. So that is what I think is, been great about my experience. The one piece where I'd say I didn't have any experience is raising money, asking people for money. I think that is probably the hardest part of all of our jobs, and it's something I never had to do before. And I've had to learn really quickly how to ask for money and be really transparent and open about what it is that we need. But overall, I think just working on something that is mine and that is so needed in the marketplace has just changed my whole perspective about work and how rewarding work could be when you're building something for yourself, for the future, and for the world. And all three of those things combined have made it just something so different from anything I experienced before.
Final thoughts. Alisa, what do you hope to be, if we come back here in a year and we're still talking about the business of menopause, what do you hope has changed?
Gosh, I think our generation is part of a big movement. I think we've always been on the cusp of digital innovation and change, and I've been lucky enough to be building these businesses as generationally. I think we're always sort of creating that change. So I really see this as a beginning of a movement. I think that we're really educating, we're reclaiming, we're stepping into the best versions of ourselves, and we're living much longer. So I think that we are the demographic to watch out for.
And in closing, Komel, you get the last line.
Yes.
And what I would ask is, one of the things that's pretty amazing about being in this, I'll call it women's sexual and reproductive health community, is how collaborative it is. So as a person who's relatively new, not to business, but to menopause and women's health, what have you found in terms of effective use of the network, either for fundraising or building the business or answering questions the way Michelle talked about?
I think, the community is small. Like the people tackling the problem, they're tackling a lot of really amazing things, but it's small and we're close and we all want to succeed and we want to do it together. And I think that's what I've found is like really becoming friends, becoming colleagues, and knowing that we're going to change this together in this movement. That has been the biggest thing. I've made dear friends. I've gotten some really great advice. And I think doing, things together is really what's going to make a change.
So Komel and I have seen each other 3 times in the last 8 days, and we've seen each other last week. Well, thank you so much. There's so much more to discuss, but I really want to thank you for the work you're doing and for sharing your knowledge with this group. And thank you to Worth for giving us this chance.
Thank you, Laura.